There are moments in film history when laughter becomes more than just sound, when it becomes a feeling, a warm embrace in difficult times. In the late 1920s, when the world faced hardships and uncertainty, two men emerged who could make you forget your troubles with a single glance, a single pratfall, a single smile. One tall and lean, eyes full of innocence. The other round and grand, exuding confidence yet undone by chaos. Together, they became more than comedians. They became legends. This is the story of Laurel and Hardy. But before the bowler hats and the famous tune, before the world knew their names, there were two boys, thousands of miles apart, unaware that destiny was quietly stitching their lives together. And Oliver Hardy, the boy called Babe. Meanwhile, far from the misty streets of England, in a small Georgia town in 1892, another story was unfolding. Norval Hardy, a boy with a gentle face and a big frame, grew up under the southern sun. He loved music, and by his teens, he was already known as a talented singer. But life in Harlem, Georgia, wasn't easy. When his father passed away, young Norval had to grow up fast. By 18, he was running a movie house, a job that introduced him to a new world, motion pictures. Soon, he wasn't just watching films, he was in them. At first, as an extra, then as a comic villain. His screen name became Oliver Norval Hardy, though off-screen, friends called him Babe, a nickname born in a barber shop, when an Italian barber patted his cheeks with talcum powder and said, "That's nice a baby." The name stuck for life. Oliver's early years in film were a whirlwind. He acted in hundreds of silent shorts, sometimes as the heavy, sometimes in drag, sometimes the bumbling sidekick. By the time the 1920s roared to life, Hardy had appeared in more than 250 films. But despite his success, something was missing. Like Stan, he was waiting for the perfect partner. In the early 1920s, two men walked separate paths, each carving his place in the unpredictable world of silent film comedy. Stan Laurel, the meticulous craftsman, obsessed over timing, gag structure, and the fine mechanics of laughter. Oliver Hardy, the natural showman, brought a warmth and commanding presence that drew audiences in before he even spoke. Part 1 showed us their beginnings, humble, scattered, but quietly preparing them for destiny. Now, their paths converge. It was 1926 at Hal Roach Studios, the nerve center of silent comedy innovation. Both men had been working there separately, Laurel writing and directing, Hardy performing in supporting roles. Then, in a moment that would change comedy forever, producer Leo McCartney suggested pairing them in a short film. At first, no one thought much of it. It was just another experiment, another studio gamble. But when the cameras rolled, something happened, something electric. Laurel's wide-eyed innocence played perfectly against Hardy's pompous dignity. Every glance, every pratfall, every slow double take was a masterstroke of timing. The two weren't just acting, they were reacting to each other. Hal Roach, watching from the sidelines, leaned in and whispered to McCartney, "We found it. Comedy's perfect balance." The studio had stumbled upon lightning in a bottle. Through 1927 and 1928, the duo starred in a string of short films. Duck Soup, Putting Pants on Philip, The Second 100 Years. Audiences adored them, not just for the gags, but for the way they carried themselves. Laurel's clumsy innocence and Hardy's grand, self-important demeanor created a rhythm, and almost musical timing that set them apart from every other act. By 1929, they made the leap to sound films. Critics feared their comedy wouldn't survive the transition. But Laurel, ever the perfectionist, studied the new medium carefully, ensuring every pause, every sigh, every muttered line landed with precision. Hardy's southern drawl became a comedic instrument all its own. By 1930, Laurel and Hardy was no longer just a pairing, it was a global sensation. They became synonymous with a new kind of humor, not crude, not forced, but human. Their comedy was built on character, not just gags. It was the look Hardy gave the camera after a blunder, the slow-building panic in Laurel's face, the way silence became as funny as sound. The world had found its favorite comedy team, and this was only the beginning. By the dawn of the 1930s, the world had changed. Silent films had faded into history, and talking pictures ruled Hollywood. Many comedians stumbled in this new era, their timing lost to the rhythm of sound. But not Laurel and Hardy. Instead, they soared higher than ever before, ushering in a golden era of comedy that would define their legacy. Sound brought new possibilities and new challenges. Dialogue had to match the rhythm of the gag. Silence had to be used like a drumbeat. Laurel became the architect, planning each pause, each line, each sigh, while Hardy refined his trademark look, the slow, defeated glance at the camera that said more than words ever could. Their first full-length talkie, Pardon Us, 1931, proved they could carry more than short skits. It showed they could lead feature films, and audiences wanted more. From 1932 to 1934, Laurel and Hardy became global icons. Their shorts and features, Helpmates, The Music Box, Sons of the Desert, were hailed as masterclasses in timing. The Music Box even won an Academy Award for Best Short Subject in 1932, a rare recognition for comedy at the time. But what truly set them apart was heart. Even amid slapstick chaos, audiences felt a strange warmth. Laurel's childlike innocence and Hardy's pompous dignity weren't just funny. They were human, real, relatable. In 1933, they began touring Europe, greeted like royalty. Crowds swarmed train stations, theater balconies overflowed, and critics spoke of the duo not just as comedians, but as artists. Their 1937 feature, Way Out West, became a milestone. A Western parody filled with musical numbers, pratfalls, and perfectly choreographed absurdity. The famous soft shoe dance outside the saloon became one of cinema's most beloved moments, played, copied, and adored for generations. By the mid-1930s, Laurel and Hardy had achieved what few ever did: universal appeal. They were not just box office draws, they were cultural icons. Fan clubs formed across America and Europe. Merchandise bore their likeness. And in a time when the world was shadowed by economic depression, their comedy brought something priceless: hope. The golden era wasn't just about laughter. It was about lifting spirits when people needed it most. By the late 1930s, Hollywood was evolving, but not always in their favor. Studios tightened creative control. Budgets shrank. Laurel and Hardy were no longer free to craft comedy with the same precision that defined their early years. In 1941, their contract with Hal Roach ended, a decision that would haunt their careers. At MGM and 20th Century Fox, production values were high, but creative freedom was low. Scripts were rushed. Gags were recycled, and the magic, though still present, felt dimmer. World War II changed everything. Audiences shifted to war dramas and patriotic films, leaving light-hearted comedy struggling to find its place. Laurel and Hardy toured tirelessly, performing for troops and keeping morale high. But each performance took its toll. Their bodies grew older, yet their routines demanded youthful energy. In 1947, the duo embarked on a European tour. The love from audiences was overwhelming. Standing ovations, sold-out shows, endless applause. But behind the curtain, cracks deepened. Hardy's health declined. Laurel battled illness and creative frustration. Yet still, they performed, driven by the bond they shared with their fans. Their last film, Atoll K, 1951, was a farewell to the silver screen. Production was plagued by poor conditions and failing health, yet the duo pressed on. Hardy passed away in 1957. Laurel, devastated, never performed publicly again. But he continued to write gags, as if hoping one day they might return. On February 23, 1965, Stan passed away in Santa Monica, California. Beside his bed was a note he once wrote, "If anyone at my funeral has a long face, I'll never speak to them again." Even in parting, he wanted a laugh. In the end, Laurel and Hardy gave the world more than laughter. They gave us friendship, innocence, hope. From silent pratfalls to the age of sound, they proved that comedy could be more than a joke. It could be an art form. And though time has passed, their legacy lives on. In every smile, every laugh, every moment of joy they left behind. Thank you for watching this journey through Hollywood's golden past. If Laurel and Hardy made you smile, even once, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories of cinema's greatest legends. Thank you for watching. Love you all.